Alright, this is my discussion thread reflection review video about EdTPA. First question was, what part of this course was most helpful in preparing you for EdTPA? I feel like there was decently detailed examples, which was really helpful to me, because when you get into the actual templates, it's like, oh my goodness gracious, what is this? And being able to see what other people were doing so I could have an idea of how to do mine was very helpful. I feel like it was pretty good how it was spaced out a little bit more. However, I do feel like task 1 is so innumerable that I almost wish that one was split up a little bit, because that week was like, I remember I spent 20 hours on this stuff, and I know that some people would probably say, well, if you plan ahead. However, as a working mom who is taking care of everything by herself because my husband's in South Dakota, that's just not an option. I have to just make it as I go, you know what I mean? But I did feel like it was very helpful how the rest of it was kind of spaced out, and all the corrections were really helpful, because then I wouldn't be making kind of like quote unquote dumb mistakes, which would be like not having the correct file names, which could, would make it so you don't get scored. And that would be such a waste to spend all these hours, and then because you didn't have the right name, you had to redo the EdTPA. I feel like it helped me also to make more connections in how I write my lessons, as well as how I make those connections from lessons to assessments, and be more reflective in the practice. I feel like I do a decent job in my own classroom with my lesson planning, connecting to standards, and then bringing about assessment, because a lot of the curriculum has assessments in it, but also taking that into consideration and seeing how it shapes the next steps in my teaching. But I feel like it made it more of a reflective practice that I wouldn't necessarily have done. I felt like that was really helpful. And then one of the last ones was, what aspect of student teaching had the biggest impact on your life? Good or bad? I would say I felt like the biggest impact was, like I said, I feel more reflective about my teaching, and I feel like I was kind of quote unquote in a rut, because my daughter was born last year, and I've been super exhausted trying to figure out how to be full-time teacher and a full-time mom and all that stuff. And I was feeling a little bit in a rut, and I wasn't putting my best foot forward in my job. And I feel like this has helped me to take that back a little bit more and do a little bit better about taking care of my job as best I can, and still come out of it to take care of my daughter. So I feel like the student teaching has helped me to do that, because I've been able to see from different views, because especially since I've been in 2 schools. I've been in someone else's classroom teaching Thursday and Friday, and then my own classroom, and it's kind of stirred me on to better planning, really making sure I'm connecting the standards well, putting in objectives what we're working towards, working with the students. It has helped me to be more on top of that stuff. And yes, I do feel prepared to lead my classroom. I feel very confident in my ability more now, even, especially with experience in life skills classroom, and seeing if it was maybe something I would want to do after this. And I think at this point, no, I don't. But it was really good to see how other people run their classrooms, and I feel like the whole process has helped me a little bit. However, I do think that there's lots of things that could be better. And I feel like sometimes it's an overwhelming process, and sometimes a little bit, I know it's necessary, but extra, because a lot of us are already teaching in classrooms. But I think it was good. It was good for me in a lot of ways. So there's my reflection.